I'm happy to introduce you to today's guest, Loso. He is a hip hop recording artist and battle rapper based out of Tampa. And he reminded me today in our conversation that he has been involved with 1517 projects, and I have actually known him since 2015, which is crazy to me. So you're going to get a little bit of that background in our conversation, but also a look into the world of battle rap. If you have no idea what that is, you've never been introduced to it, hold on, because a lot of what Loso has to say, I think, translates really easily into whatever community you find yourself in. We are living in a time in the United States in particular that's not quite post-Christian, but is getting there. And I think Loso offers us a really amazing example of what it looks like to live in our vocation, whatever that may be, to love people well, whoever those people may be who are right in front of us, and to do it in a way that lets them know they're not a project for us to work on, that they are people to be loved, that Christ has come and died for them, and how our faith informs the way then that we approach people both in grace and humility. This is Outside Ourselves. I'm Kelsi Climbera, and here is today's show. Loso, good morning. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, good to see you. I know you're preparing for a hurricane, so
Yeah.
hopefully the power stays on and we could get through this interview.
Yeah. I'm a terrible Floridian because like when people say I'm preparing, I'm like, yeah, I just woke up and I'm just doing the regular things. Charging my phone is the most preparation that I'm doing. So.
There you go. That's half the battle, so that's
Exactly.
good. Well, I would love if you want to just start and tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you, and what do you do?
Yeah, man, my name is Loso. I'm a national recording artist. I'm also, but primarily known as a battle rapper. I know we're going to unpack that in a little bit as well, but
Yeah.
I do a little bit of acting. I was an English and history teacher for 4 years. But right now, yeah, I'm also a spoken word artist currently on, or about to start tour for that. And so I try to make sure that I keep my hands in like a bunch of different just avenues in which I could kind of like use my creativity. And so, whenever I'm done with one project or something, I'm just always thinking like, okay, what's something else I can do? Is there a skit that I can do? Is there another, concert, battle, whatever it is? And so, but that is primarily what I do. I do travel pretty much every weekend. I'm out of town, in some different state. And doing one of those couple of things that I just mentioned. Puerto Rican Colombian from Queens, New York originally. Okay. And so I know I mentioned offline that I hate the cold, and that's probably why, like, from Queens just growing up. But so if ever I visit, I make sure I go there in summer. But Queens, New York, that's where a lot of my family's from. But moved to Tampa at a young age, and so and been here since, and kind of probably just gonna ride the course in Tampa until I'm done. So.
Okay. Yeah. Until you're done. You're going to be buried in Tampa.
Exactly. Yeah.
I didn't realize you were from New York originally. That's kind of, from what I've read, I don't know much, but the epicenter of battle rap, is that right? Like
I would say that's the Mecca of battle. I mean, even to this day, I mean, I go out to different cities, and there's people who know me and stop me, pictures, stuff like that. But when I'm in Times Square, that's like, I mean, I get stopped pretty frequently out there.
Really?
Yeah. It's just, there's just a huge, I would say even right. I mean, but it's definitely grown tremendously actually throughout the year. So, but I would also say Houston and Atlanta are two big hubs for battle rap as well. But New York, yeah, that's like the Mecca. I mean, you're talking about like, in the 90s, like these guys were just like, it wasn't even professional. Like it wasn't even a job for them. It was just a sport. And if you lived off of 42nd and Lenox, and you lived off of Kingston, and and you were the best guy over here, and you were the best guy over here, well, guys would just be like, all right, well, let's meet up and let's just see who's, and they would just right there on the spot, no cameras, no
How
money, nothing
interesting.
like that. And
Yeah.
so it grew from that, obviously, and then leagues started to be formed, and there was a sort of professionalism that was attached to it as well. I know whenever we say battle rap, the first thing that people kind of get in their mind is like 8 Mile. That's like the first
Yes.
thing that they
Yeah.
do. So
Yeah.
rightfully so. That is a form of battle rap. You know what I'm saying? That was more like improv, freestyle, and like off the cuff. It's funny
Okay.
now because now when I tell people I battle rap, they're like, "Oh, like Hamilton," and I'm like, "No, definitely not." So you just see like the different generations or whatnot. But
tell us a little bit more about, because I'm assuming probably a lot of people listening don't have much familiarity with battle rap.
mm-hmm.
What is it exactly?
Yeah.
How is it different than traditional rap songs? And then like, what's the format for a battle rap?
Yeah. So, well, first for anybody watching, they're like, man, how did this connection happen? Loso and Kelsi,
Yeah.
right? But
that's true too.
I've been with like, so I let everyone know I've actually been, working alongside 15, 17 and Doug, Dan and stuff since 2015.
Yeah.
2015 was the first time that they did a conference out in Manhattan. And I spoke on vocational.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yep. And so that was my first time doing anything like that. I think like a conference in general, but that was just based off of me. And I think my battle rap career had just started at that time. It literally had just started in 2015. And so, prior to that though, I was just on Twitter, just a believer. And I tell people all the time, I ran across Dan's tweets. He would just blurt out these like thought-provoking tweets, whether it was about communion, baptism, grace, whatever it is. And I just remember like, man, I never even heard someone say something like that.
Yeah.
In 2014, I had I was going through this like huge trial in my life, and I don't know why, but I needed somebody who didn't know me or didn't know me that well, but I needed somebody who I could just like tell everything to and not be afraid of like the finger pointing. Just be like, okay, well, the fact that you're even coming to me and saying this stuff is sign of grace. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like there's brokenness there. And so I reached out to Dan and I wrote him this long email. I just tried. I didn't know if he was going to read it. He wrote me back in like 10 minutes and was like, and he just sent his phone number. He said, call me now. And I called him and yeah, from there, from 2014, I was just on the phone with him. I want to say like every week. And then obviously, I've been to several of the San Diego conferences.
Yeah.
I think I did Houston with them one time and different things. So, but through that though, Dan has also watched my career kind of blossom into what it is today. And so for me at that time, growing up, so everybody listening, that's kind of my connection to it. But it's also, the foundation is obviously I'm a believer. I love Jesus.
Yes.
He saved me. And so therefore that is because apart from that, I don't know what connection I would have with Dan besides the fact that we love basketball, but there's nothing else to really talk about. So we're,
I'm glad you started with that, because I actually didn't know any of that history. I mean, I knew probably your connection to 1517 was Dan Price and Christ Hold Fast, but thank you for sharing that, because that's super interesting. And I know throughout the years you've been on like staff at different churches and stuff as well. So like you said, you do a lot of things, but that's very helpful for people to just know who you are. So anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
I don't want, no. I always make sure that they know like I'm here because I want to be here. Like I'm not here just because you guys are like, hey, we need a rapper to just, kind of like diversify something here. But I tell people like, no, like, I work alongside with them and they may, hire me here or book me for this or whatnot, but it's a personal relationship, that I have with you guys. And so, so for me, when I tell people I battle rap, and it's, it's always odd because, it doesn't sound like a job. It sounds like, oh, look, he's just trying to, make it type of thing. But the great thing about it is that battle rap has became a sport in which you can, make money, make a living off of it. The top
Yeah.
ones, and it's like the top
Right.
1% in battle rap do it, and by God's grace, I'm able to say that I'm amongst that top 1%. And so, I was already a fan of hip. I mean, I just grew up in hip hop, and so at a young
Yeah.
age, not having a father, my first thought was, okay, well, where am I going to learn how to be a man? Who's going to teach me manhood or masculinity? And so, unfortunately, I looked to hip hop because that's what I knew. And so, the Jay-Z's or whoever was out at that time, I started listening to them and watching their music videos. And I thought, being a man meant, lots of money and multiple cars and doing this and doing that and talking this way, this bravado, a lot of pride, a lot of ego. And
Yeah.
so that's where, it taught me how to dress. It taught me how to walk. Hip hop kind of shaped who I was, which that isn't necessarily inherently evil. That's all good.
Yeah.
It was it was what came with it though. Like I said, like the pridefulness and stuff. And so, but growing up though, I also fell in love with another form of hip hop, which was battle rap, which I think is probably the most authentic form of hip hop. It's because any rapper more than 99% of any rapper that you could probably just think of, they probably started off battle rapping, whether it was in their lunchroom, on their phones. Like it's just something that it's like almost like one of the first steps, because it's just hip hop just has that competitiveness to it. For me, I'm loving the sport. I was like, man, what if I did that? What if because I love the people in it. I love the sport so much. And I got introduced to it when I was in high school, and I was just like, man, like there's no beat. It's just a cappella. I can hear all the words.
Yeah.
There's more freedom in the writing because you're not boxed in with an instrumental that you have to like keep on pace with this specific cadence. And a cappella, it's like, well, I'm free. I get to go ahead and say it this way or do something this way, perform or something. And so I started out writing spoken words actually alongside a pastor in my neighborhood who was going through the minor prophets, and he would ask me, hey, you mind just writing a poem on the book of Hosea? Well, the difference is I'm not a poet, but whenever I would do my a cappella stuff, it would have mannerisms of that of a battle rapper. So it would have all this content, biblical content, but the people in the crowd were like, man, we never seen someone rap it like that. And that's because I was merging these two worlds together. And so, after that, I said, man, you know what? Let me just try it out. I just want to try it out as a bucket list. And I did it. And when I did my first battle, the ripple effect of it was so large. Like it was like, who's this guy who came in here, didn't use any profanity. He's being bold about his faith. And he just clearly beat this guy. How? Because the only way they knew how to win battles was saying, whether it was, sexual, innuendos or they were just, a lot of profanity, or I'm going to, kill you 1,000 times, whatever it is. And there's creativity behind that, but that's all they knew. And so when someone else was coming in here and sparking conversation and content and different things, it was, for them, at least in this area, it was like a culture shock. And so I started elevating, doing like the views were just piling up on YouTube. And so it just seemed after that, I was just getting put in positions where I was winning like competitions that I had no business winning. I was like super nervous. I'm in the back throwing up, going on stage, winning. Yeah, it was because I had never did anything like this.
Yeah.
And so long story short, since then I have ranked. There's like over 20,000 active battlers. I have ranked in the top 10 5 times.
That's awesome.
Been given awards. Been able to travel. I battled in Manchester. I'm battling in London in November 4th.
Awesome.
And so, even, I get to meet a lot of people who, maybe they might just, have their perception of religion in general or just church in general. And whatever the media, whatever their takes are, and so I'm dealing with that. I knew I was going into an environment where I thought it was like, okay, you know what? Most of my conversations will be based off of, your classical apologetics, where okay, you don't believe there's a God. Let me go ahead and prove like, oh, you're an atheist, stuff like that. What I
Yeah.
found though is that the demographic and the people that I was just doing life with over there, man, it wasn't that they didn't believe in God or Jesus in general. It was, yo, I'm in this situation. Can you tell me that God cares for me? Like how do I know that? You know what I'm saying? And or it was, you know, this the first time I had even been approached with this question was, hey, no, yo, Christianity is the white man's religion. It was used to
Yeah.
enslave us and stuff. And prior to battle rap, I had never been confronted with that. Not in
Yeah.
college, not in high school, not in my neighborhoods. I hadn't even heard of that argument prior to 2015, 2016.
Yeah.
And so it caused me to go ahead and study. And so I needed to learn up on, okay, what are their arguments and what are rebuttals? And you know what? Man, some of the stuff that they are saying is true. We did do,
Yeah.
you know, these European, you know, Christians did do things that were wrong and stuff. And so
Right.
I need to make, I had to get to a place, Kelsi, where I was able to say, look, man, you're right. I'm sorry that happened. And
Yeah.
people were doing stupid things in the name of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
But man, there's black leaders. There's African church fathers that know that this Jesus is real. So you know that it's not just coming from, you know, from Europe or whatnot. It's actually, you know, originating, you know, actually in Africa. Like you have the first Coptic
Right.
church in Africa. And
Yeah, the
you know,
Ethiopian church has like a
exactly.
huge part to play, not only
Yeah.
in the early church, but also the Reformation.
Yeah. Oh
Luther
yeah.
was
So good.
writing the Ethiopian church like all the time, which is
So
crazy.
good.
So yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
there's history there for
Yeah.
sure that is important to know.
So I'm still obviously constantly having this conversation, but hey, do you feel oppressed? Okay, well, I want to let you know there's no other religion that's going to go ahead and heal your wounds. We literally have a book dedicated to the oppressed. Like if you open up the
Yeah.
scriptures, like God is close to those who are going through all of that. When you go on YouTube, if you did watch a battle from Loso, that's just the tip of the iceberg of what I'm actually doing out there. I'm able to build relationships, man. I mean, countless of stories that I just have with men that, you know, even after we battled, I have great relationships with every single person I battled. I try to stay in contact with a lot of them. I mean, you know, from this isn't to like, you know, these are just examples of things in which I'm able to do, but not tooting my own horn, but I'm talking about guys who are, you know, they went to prison and one of their calls are to me. And so, you know, I'm just talking with them or helping somebody get bailed out or helping somebody, you know, pay their bills or just spending time with them as they're kind of like, you know, figuring out, you know, how to navigate through this, or this person just had their first child, whatever it is. I want to make sure that they know like, yo, I'm not just here and you're not just a project for me to kind of fix up so I could bring back to, you know, 15, 17, like, look guys, I'm doing good. Like I actually genuinely care about you. And
well, because it's correct me if I'm wrong, but the community is pretty tight, right? Like people are that's what, again, like I'm reading this stuff. I don't know. So I would love your input, but it seems like even if you watch a battle rap, you can kind of tell as like two rappers are, you know, you're attacking each other with like personal insults sometimes. You're also like cheering each other on. Like you can kind of pick up on that language. What is that? What is that dynamic like? Because you are, like you said, it's a sport. Like you're trying to win and take down this other rapper. But then
it's also a business though. So that's what I try to tell people. So like you got to think about it. I kind of would compare it to boxing and also wrestling at the same time. Wrestling in the sense of it's entertainment. It's definitely entertainment as well. And you want to put on a show. So you want to sell tickets. So you know, because I mean, the more, you know, revenue that you're generating, obviously it does better for you. And so, you know, me and my opponent may be saying things back and forth to each other so that the fans can really, you know, tune into this battle and stuff like that. But at no point, you know, I'm not saying that everybody's like this. I'm pretty sure there's some cases in some battles where it's, it's gotten out of hand. But at no point are we thinking, yeah, I can't, I don't really like this guy. If I see him, I'm gonna do X, Y, Z. So, but for us, we understand like it's a business. When I say it's like boxing, though, it's like a sport. It's because how I would get a contract from the league, and they'll be like, "Hey, Loso, we want you to battle." Doug out of Dallas, like he's this battle rapper, yada yada, it's
Yeah.
like that. And I'm like, okay, cool. And so, if I decide if depending on what league and stuff like that, and we negotiate the money and stuff, I will, they'll give me a time frame, be like, hey, can you do it in 3 weeks? And so in 3 weeks, I'm preparing usually the normal guideline is 3 rounds, and each round is 3 minutes. And so you're writing
Okay.
material, and so different people have different strategies on how they write. For me, I kind of just look at it like almost like a paper. Each round has like a specific thesis or convo that I want to have with him, and so. But I try to make sure that I'm also entertaining at the same time educating, and so I'm doing this edutainment
Yeah.
thing that that
Yeah.
the fans can walk away with something, but they're still like, oh yeah, he put on the show, and he's still doing this. So like even though I am a believer, I tell people it'd be no different than if you had a boxer who was a Christian, or a basketball player who was Christian. Like if Steph Curry, he's a believer, that doesn't mean that he's not going to try to score 40 points on you just because he wants to be
Right.
kind and meek. No, he has
Yeah.
a job out there, right? Or the
Yeah.
boxer, the Christian boxer, what I'm saying? That doesn't mean that he's not going to knock you out. He has a job. Like this is the sport. And so for me, I still go in there with the intention to win. And
Yeah.
so but obviously for me, there's certain principles that I just won't cross just because of my worldview and stuff. So I know that was a big spill, but all in all, that is one area in which I do believe that the Lord is not only he's not only interested in redeeming people, but also redeeming cultures. And I think that what he does is he takes people out of specific cultures, specifically for me, right? And the hip hop culture says, hey, you know what? You with the oversized t-shirt and the earrings and the tattoos, I'm going to go and change your heart. Keep this same thing. I'm going to put you back in there. And I now want you to go ahead and engage the very same culture that you were indulging in, but this time for my glory. I'm also learning as I'm going, like how to
Yeah.
navigate as a believer in these spaces. Because I don't have someone who could be like, look, Los, when you get in this room, do X, Y, Z. But I try to
Right.
just make sure that they know whenever I do build relationships with these people, they know that I care. They know that I'm here. I'm available.
Yeah.
And
And
also, like
it's like it's your job. Like it's
yeah.
authentic in the sense that it's your vocation. Like you're saying,
Yeah.
you're not doing it to earn some credit with a nonprofit or a church or whatever. And that's such a difference. And I think I loved the way you said, like, God has placed you there, because I think one thing Christians, to me, often wears like a badge of pride is this, like, in the world but not of the world
Yeah.
claim. And I think that goes two ways. Like it either goes the way of, when we find pride in it, it goes the way of like, I'm in the world and look at how well I'm like evangelizing and how well I'm in the world, but I'm still a Christian. Or it goes the way of like, I'm in the world, but this is the way I probably struggle to do it more, where I'm like, I'm in the world, but I'm not of the world. I'm so much more righteous and set apart.
Yeah.
And in both cases, it's all about us. Like it's all about what we're doing.
Yeah.
It's not about God putting you there in a very authentic way where you're taking one step in front of the other and like doing what's
life
next.
with them.
Yeah. And living as friends and as community. I think that's a huge difference. What has been would you say the most common reaction? You talked about a few earlier, but common reaction to you being a Christian in this community?
It's weird because I'm open about my faith there, but there's several believers, several Christians just in that vicinity, whether it's fans attending or even battle rappers, right? And so I've had conversations and people just come up to me, like, man, like, bro, I respect what you do, bro. My dad's a pastor, or my grandma, she always, like they respect if you do anything with excellence, right? Like what, I don't care what you do. If you're just great at what you do, a videographer, a chef, battle rapper, whatever it is, like people are going to gravitate towards you doing something in excellence. So I try to
Yeah.
make sure that is the first door that I get to go ahead and present them to walk through, because if I wasn't that good, they probably wouldn't even talk to me anyway. But but because I'm open about my faith and they know that, it allows them to kind of just be comfortable with me. I'm talking about, like, bro, in the middle of, like, sometimes, we're performing in clubs and stuff. And so in the middle of that, they'll just be like, hey man, real quick, do you mind praying for me? And I'm like, okay, great. But I also want, but why me? You know what I'm saying? Why me?
Yeah.
Do you think I have, because I don't, but I want to let you know I want to. But I want to let them know, like, it's not that I, have some sort of like special connection. The only thing separating us right now is grace. And
Yeah.
that is literally at the table for you right here. You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah.
can go ahead and feast on this same thing that I've been bragging about. And so, but yeah, I think the common thing now is just, reaching out. I mean, whenever people try, whenever I'm battling somebody and they want to promo, the first thing they'll either try to like attack my faith or attack the authenticity of it. You know what I'm saying? Oh, you're a hypocrite because just to sell out, just to promote the fight. But like I said, all these guys, they got my phone number. They know me personally, sometimes, fans, they'll get reckless out the mouth. I just hit the block button or the mute button. I
Yeah.
really got time for it. But the majority of people, I mean, they definitely just appreciate someone just being present like that in this
Yeah.
area. So
That's interesting. So would you say there's a difference in the way, like, the public battle rap debate is going on and how people approach you in that way versus how they approach you personally, and whether that's true or not, would you say that's the case for you, like the way you prepare for the stage, is that different than the way you approach people personally, or do you think there's consistency throughout?
Man, yeah, I definitely think that there is a difference. Like you said, on a personal level, I mean, this is just, I'm trying to, dialogue relationally or whatnot. When I get on stage, I know that there's, like, I'm contracted to do something. Like
Yeah.
that is, I can't ignore that, right? Like they are paying me a deposit up front and then a back end on the other end, and saying like, hey, okay, if you do this, if you complete this, like, hey, so I understand that I have a job to do. So in that sense, and I do think that people, I mean, they still see me as Loso, so
Right.
I have to kind of like walk in a specific way and a line, and I am this person that they've been watching on YouTube or they're, on Twitter or Instagram. So when they see me in person, it's just, like, it's always dope to me when anybody wants to come up to me. It's like, Loso, yeah, I'm like, oh, all right, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's talk, or let's get a picture or something. But so yeah, so I do think that they, they whenever you're on stage, I always think, man, the higher your platform rises, the less tolerance people have for you, in the sense
Mm.
of, like, because we're seeing you here and stuff like that, they kind of dehumanize you almost in a little bit. Like,
Yeah,
you
for sure.
can't, you won't have emotions, you can't have opinions, you won't have whatever it is. And so the first sign of me showing any, human side is just like, look, I knew you weren't, such and such. So maybe from that sense, I try to make sure that, um, I treat battle events and, like, even my social media, like I tell people it's like a burning building. I run in, I see whoever needs my help, and I get the heck out of there, because too much of it can obviously, like, I want to leave before it comes crashing down. And the building, I'm not necessarily talking about battle. I'm talking about just, like, man, my own ego, it can kind of get fed to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes, their criticisms will get to my heart, or their praise will get to my head, and that begins a whirlwind of emotions for me, where, like, I'm up the next day looking at, searching up my name here, and I'm like, man, what are they saying about me here? What are they saying about, what I'm saying? So I'm just trying to just, keep that, keep the main thing always, but also, still be very available to them as whoever they have me to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's so interesting about this is, uh there, to me, battle rap seems like the perfect platform for like the 21st century debate, because we don't
Yeah.
really have debate anymore. But like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I just feel like if Martin Luther was around, he would be battle rapping,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah. Exactly.
everything laid bare.
Yeah.
But then there's this sense that you're talking about. There's the public sense where you're like laying out arguments, whether they're
Yeah.
theological or not.
Mhm.
And then there's this private kind of pastoral sense where you're just in the community and available to
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
which they can go hand in hand, but they also don't necessarily, they're not the same approach all the time. It sounds like
Exactly.
it's a little
Yep.
different.
Yeah.
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 That's really, I just think that's really interesting and cool,
Mhm.
because I don't think there's many places where that makes sense in
Yeah.
our day and age and
Mhm.
works. And it seems like this is one of them.
And for me
I
too,
think,
I'll
yeah,
say
go
this
ahead.
too. Like I think what's so unique about it is that, whenever you do music, um, as a Christian, whether you're doing explicit, worship music, or you're just,
Yeah.
you're just a Christian, just making. But whenever you are open about your faith, they automatically put you in this genre, right? Like Christian music is the
Mm-hmm.
only genre that is categorized based off of content and not sonically, right? Because I mean, you can
Yeah.
have rap music, you can have country music, you can have all that, but as soon as you start being explicit about your faith, well, we have a genre for you, and this is
Yeah.
the Christian genre, right? That's the only genre that's getting categorized based off of content. But what's great about battle rap is that that's not the case, right? Like I am on stage with the best battle rappers in the world. I'm on stage with some of the best rappers, and I want to be on the same playing field. I want you to go ahead and put me in the same category as whoever else, and let's see who's better. And then obviously, I also want you to recognize that I'm doing this at a high level without wavering on who I am and
Yeah.
and what I believe and stuff. So I think that's why battle rap kind of has like my heart, because
Yeah.
it's so like I said, it's so authentic as far as being explicitly hip hop, but then it also gives me the opportunity to be in stages with people who otherwise would want to go ahead and put us in a different category.
I've heard a lot recently, a lot of arguments for Christianity lately that seem to be based solely or primarily on ethics. So like this argument of like, you should turn your life around because God wants us to flourish as humans, and
Yeah.
and this is like the best way to live. And I know that there's truth to that. There's truth
Yeah.
biblically to the fact that like when we have faith in Christ, our life looks different. We consider our life differently, all of those things. I don't want to discredit that, but I do think there's something about that argument, especially apologetically, that seems to fall flat.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I've seen some of these debates even online, whether it's like on podcasts or whatever, where the non-Christian is just like, no, my life's like pretty good.
Yeah.
Like
What do you say?
I'm
What do you
making
say to
money.
that?
Yeah, like I'm doing fine. Thank you very much. I don't need to change
Yeah.
anything. But I'm curious what your experience has been in kind of, making apologetic arguments, pastoring basically people
Yeah.
in situations. What type of argument, what type of case, apologetic case, seems to impact people? Is it more of this like clean your life up? Is it more like, or which we would probably say is more of like a law argument, or is it more of this grace gospel argument? And I also want to say, that's not to say that we're in charge of changing people's minds.
Of course,
The Holy Spirit is the one that does that, but curious kind of just what your experience has been personally with that.
Yeah, man, behavior modification, right? Like it's just never,
Yes.
It's just like, I mean, like you said earlier, like you can pitch that to somebody and they just tell you like, well, I'm doing pretty good. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Actually, ever since I gave my life to, or being a Muslim, I've actually haven't went to prison at all. You know what I'm saying? So it seems like if they tell you something like that, you're like, okay, but do you have peace? You know what I'm saying? It's like, what's your next line? And so, yeah, that's never what it is. I mean, I try to just make sure that, it's definitely grace for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not opposed to law either. Like I do feel like, you know, give law to the proud, grace to the humble. Like if somebody's just out there, you know, man, I don't care, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z. You're just like, let me go ahead and tell you
They probably
exactly
need
why
some law.
that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like why that's
Yeah.
not. But for the guys that I'm having conversations with, like I said, I mean, it just seems like the common theme is either one, like I said, I need to know where has God been at. You know what I'm saying? Like he's been silent in my life, and you know
Hmm.
this, that, and the third, or two, like you know, well, he's not real because he's been silent. And so I try to make sure, like, if I am having like a real apologetic debate, and somebody's like asking me questions about the scriptures, you know, I try to just get back to, well, look, okay, well, let's just start off with, who do you think Jesus is? Like when you hear that name, like, do you believe he was a real man? Like, is he a real guy in history? Like, where do I start from there? Um, and as I kind of like maneuver from that conversation, I try to make sure that I tell him, look, the reason why I'm even talking to you is because he really resurrected. Like if he was not like alive
Yeah.
right now, I wouldn't even be like entertaining this, because I have no leg to stand on. So I want to let you know I'm not doing this so that you go ahead and stop smoking or stop doing this or stop doing whatever it is. It's like, yo, he really rose from the grave, and I think you need to know this. It's important because of this. Now, whatever
Yeah.
happens after that, all the other byproducts of like, you know, his behavior and his choices like that,
Right.
that's obviously, you and I both know, like that's the Holy Spirit. Cool, we're gonna leave that there. For us, for me in that conversation though, man, I'm constantly just asking, yo, Holy Spirit, like open the eyes of his heart, soften, you know, whatever, you know, hard, callous, you know, emotions he might have towards you or towards anybody, you know, taking the time and speaking to him, and give me the right conversation to have with them, to let them know, like, yo,
Hmm.
not only does God care, but I'm gonna tell you why he does. One, he's like, he isn't a God like all these other religions where he's just, you know, sitting up in the sky. I want to let you know, like, yo, he came down and like he suffered with you and for you. That's
Yeah.
different. That's life altering when you actually start understanding, like, oh wow, he's not just this, like, you know, this Greek god type of figure, you know, just standing up there with this, but no, like, yo, he actually came and lived amongst his people. And hey, I'm trying to be a small picture of that, because I know that, and I'm amongst you right now, and I want you to know, like, yo, I care about you too. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
using not just my time, but my wallet, my words, my resources, whatever it is, to show you that I care, and that I want to walk with you through this. So yeah, I would definitely say that type of um, conversation, that type of vernacular has been the most helpful for me. But I'm never
Hmm.
opposed, like I said. You know, sometimes grabbing that law and just like, no, I'm
Yeah.
joking,
You.
but
We all. Hey, we all need the law still
no,
in
but I
this life
still,
for
yeah,
sure.
and I, you know, and don't get me wrong, like I love healthy debates too, back and forth. Like, hey, okay, cool, you want to go ahead and talk about this, and why does the Bible say this and stuff like that? Cool, let's do it. But you know, I try to make sure like there's always like a goal at the end of the conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Centering, I mean, we've talked about this before, I know, but centering apologetics on the crucified and risen Christ, it seems to me like the quickest way to get people to, hey, this is like you got to consider this. You got to at least take it seriously. And when you do
Mm-hmm.
take it seriously, there are ramifications of what does that mean for you in your suffering and in your
Yeah,
loneliness, which I think are very helpful for people these days.
yeah.
Whether it's a battle rapper from Tampa or New York,
Mm-hmm.
or whoever, a housewife in Dallas, like those,
Yeah,
I, that is what that's the center. That's the center of what we believe. So why not take people there first,
exactly.
and then you can talk about ethics and living and
Yeah,
all that stuff
yeah.
after. There's a lot of talk about America kind of moving into a post-Christian society. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like in a lot of ways we're already there. We already see some communities that probably reside there. Would you say battle rap is there? Like, do you consider that kind of a post-Christian context, or do you think the majority of people still have words and lingo to understand what it is? And maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
a mix still. I don't know.
Yeah. Man, I don't think battle rap is.
Yeah,
I think that they do still have that that understanding,
yeah,
and even I would even say reverence, man. Like there's certain
really.
things that I, oh my goodness, like there's certain things where like certain battle rappers like they'll like just in this specific culture that I'm in, like I mean I've had people, stupid reasons, like they don't have to do this, but they'll be like, hey, I'm sorry for cursing around you, like I'm like, bro, that's totally fine, we're just having
Yeah,
a conversation, like you don't have to do that, or like like I said, even asking for prayer, or even if somebody is attacking me in a battle or whatnot. I remember there's some battle rappers like, man, I didn't feel comfortable when that guy was telling you this, or I didn't like. They just knew, like, man, that just that's just too much. Or like,
yeah,
no, like like they'll always preface it like this: look, bro, I don't go to church, and I'm not in the word all the time, but bro, I love God, so I wouldn't do X, Y, Z. And I'm like, hey, you don't have to tell me what you don't do. Like I believe you,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
so I think definitely that they are still well aware of certain things, and it's always cool too, because whenever somebody is battling me, they start doing research on Christianity and start reading certain things. I'm like, that's a win-win there. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
that so they're definitely learning it and stuff like that. So I don't think battle rap is there yet.
yeah. Okay, that's has that because people at least somewhat share the language or have like maybe they were raised in it or they have
Hmm.
a family member that's a Christian. Does that inform how you approach um either a battle, like the
Hmm.
public
Hmm.
apologetic type argument or like a personal conversation? I'm curious and I'm asking this because I think um we are kind of in that middle gray area just in cultural in general. And so interested how your experience can kind of inform other people
Hmm.
who are having these
Yeah.
conversations
Yeah.
where language is like shared, but there's probably
Hmm.
like some misunderstanding or
Yeah.
definitions are a little bit different. What has been
Hmm.
your experience with that and kind of trying to reorient people to a correct biblical understanding of Christianity?
Yeah. Whenever I'm on stage, I try to make sure whatever like content or conversation that I am having, like it's almost like an icebreaker for something deeper, because I know, like, obviously it's going on, whether it's on pay-per-view or YouTube or something like that, it's going to be reaching, there's a lot of people that I'm not going to be able to get in contact with, but just one or two of these lines, if it could just resonate with something, just like, man, that's, I want to have another conversation about this. And I love that you did X, Y, and Z. So like the language of the lingo, like for instance, something as simple as like walk by faith, right? That would be pretty universal. Just that maybe not necessarily understanding exactly what that means,
Yeah,
but we use that, and like even your everyday Joe, he would just probably just use it as an idiom for something or whatnot. And
right.
so I had tore my ACL last year on Halloween, and I had a battle like 2 weeks later, right?
Hmm.
And I was limping. I was on crutches. I didn't even know I was going to do the battle, but I ended up still doing the battle. And it was a big deal. It was like Loso's still doing the battle on a torn ACL, and he wasn't he's not backing out. He's on a plane, all this stuff. And so I get on stage, and I had the crutches the whole time. Everybody sees me walking around, and so I go up, and ironically enough, I'm battling a guy named Tink the Demon. So, and that's his whole thing. Like he's like, his raps are like really torturous and like real like graphic. And so,
Okay.
and he's like this big guy, bro. So he's like, they call him the demon and stuff. And so, man, I just remember being in that room. It was packed out. I was in Phoenix, Arizona, and I already had my material written, but I was like, man, I have to do something. I have to like, because I know what the narrative of this battle is. It's like, he's the
Hmm.
demon, I'm his believer. And, I was like, man, I got these crutches. And so literally right before I got on stage, I just put two lines together. I was like, okay. And so, I started off by saying, uh, I came over here with a torn ACL. That's nothing to brag on. I should give these crutches to Tink the Demon. His whole career, he's never had a leg to stand on. And so they've all, they kind of were going crazy for that right there. But that wasn't
Yeah.
like the big one. That was just to set them up. And so I said, but something along the lines. But I have crowd control. I can control the room, even as I talk in place. Plus, I'm a Christian battling a demon. So this battle, let's walk by faith. And so I took right when I said it, I took my crutches and I handed it to somebody, and so the whole room explodes. They're like, oh my, like the guys in the back, like they're losing their mind. And obviously, you and I know walk by faith doesn't mean, hey, be idiotic and just, go to
Yes.
your
Yeah.
ACLs are healed. But it was something to kind of just draw, spark the conversation, kind of correlate something. I mean, they lost their minds, with all this stuff. And so, but after that though, like something simple as that, right? I'm using that as for the masses. And as soon as I get off stage, I'm having several conversations about different topics, different things, and one-on-one where I could kind of like really dig deep into this person's train of thought, worldview, whatever it is, all because, I
Wow.
did that on stage. And so, I try to make sure that, the two correlate. And usually 9 times out of 10, any conversation that somebody has with me, the Loso, the battle rapper, there is usually coming from, oh, well, I saw this battle, yeah, that's good. And then it'll come into like, man, hey, my mom's going through this. Can we talk? And I was like, cool, that's fine. So that's just one situation, but something that was really cool. Probably one of my favorite moments as a battle rapper as well when I did that. So
that's amazing. Yeah. So interesting again that like attention grabbing moment can lead to digging into people's, like you said, worldviews and definitions and allow that opportunity. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I know we're kind of ending our time. I would love to hear where you want to see your career go, just personally, but also, as far as like you're a Christian in this context where you're kind of one of not very many. Like, what is your hope and some of your goals for the future?
Yeah, man. Like I said, I've done a lot of things, whether it was teaching or battling or music and stuff. I tell people all the time when people ask me like that, I don't know. Cause even if you would have asked me in 2015, where would it be? I mean, I just want to just be great at this sport. And I think I've solidified myself. Like if I hung it up today, I'll be known as, as a consistent battler, in his time, one of the best. And so, for me, I'm still in it. I don't see myself leaving anytime soon, but I'm kind of, I have interests. Like I like acting, what I'm saying? I did a couple of things here and there, some skits. I don't even know if I'm good or nothing like that, but I just enjoy it. And it's easy to memorize scripts because I memorize, words all the time. And so do that. I might go back to teaching, what I'm saying? I might, I love making music. I mean, and it really depends on, I try to just make sure I do all of those things, and whatever kind of takes off, then I'm like, oh, okay, you know what? I'll put my energy towards that right now. So, whether it's, I'm about to go on tour for poetry. Well, I'm on a poetry tour that starts in a couple weeks, and that's another avenue in which I'm in front of like a different audience, and I try to make sure I'm doing that in excellence as well, because I never know, like somebody could see me there and just offer me, this other opportunity. And so I just want to continue just grinding, really hustling with those things that the Lord has kind of given me opportunities to create with, and and just continue being faithful with that. That's it.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's, for people listening, is such a good example of what vocation should look like. It's not always, I don't know. As Christians, I think we think, oh, we have to like discern this hidden plan for our lives that God is going to drop down once we do X, Y, and Z. And you're showing, I think your example is just like, no, you just do what's in front of you and you do it really well. And that could be specifically Christian. It could be not. It could just be whatever's next. And that's
it could also just be me just being lazy and not really putting out a five year and just sitting down putting out a vision board. But I'm gonna hope that it's the former. I hope that it's just like, you know what, I am truly content with whatever opportunity God gives me, and I just want to make sure I do that. But hey, if you're out there and you are you're a visionary and you know exactly what the next step is for your life, I mean, more power to you. But I agree, Kelsi. I'm kind of just, I think my mindset is just like, all right, man, you know what? if this is what it is, like, if Dan called me tomorrow, I was like, hey, for 4 months, I want you to work on this project with us. All right, cool. You know what? Then for 4 months, that's what I'm gonna do. I
Yeah.
just Flame and I, we just did a song for
Yeah.
Blake, and hopefully, there's more to come
Is
with that. But,
is that on the Freedom Lessons
I think so.
soundtrack that's coming out? Okay. Yeah. I know that's coming out soon.
Hopefully,
I'll
I know
link that.
we procrastinated on our specific, so hopefully it made the cut. But it was
Okay. I'll check in on it, but
Yeah.
I knew that you guys were working on something, which is awesome. So
Yeah.
hopefully that if it's out, or I think it's coming out soon, I'll make sure people know where to find that. Speaking of that, where can we follow along with what you're doing? And you mentioned the poetry tour. Is there a way people can kind of follow that and see where you're going to be?
Man, I think the easiest way to kind of like follow me is my Instagram, everything Loso. So just everything Loso. My Twitter is everything Loso as well. But I have a website. I don't update it as much, like as far as with tour stops and stuff I need to, but it's everythingloso.com. However, though, if you go to everythingloso.com, what does get updated is the merch. And so if you want to go and support me, you can either donate. If you're just watching this and you're like, man, you know what? I want to go ahead and just come alongside Loso for whatever he's doing. You can donate directly to me on my website, or you can just, you can buy I have some hoodies there, and I actually drop the prices very, very cheap because it's so hot right now. And I know nobody wants to even look at a hoodie, but hey, winter's coming. So I literally dropped them. They're like, they're $40. The hoodies are $40, but I literally have them right now at $15 because I'm just like, man, I just want to get them out. So like literally just buy as many as you want. It's going to get cold one day. And so, but yeah, go to everythingloso.com. And for the spoken word tour, I'll also be posting up my tour dates, but you can go to PIAtour.com. PIA is Poets in Autumn. That's the name of the tour. So PIAtour.com. And you will see, I think we're about to do like 10 cities. So you'll see which cities we're coming to.
Awesome. Well, best of luck with that. And I'm excited to see what you do next. So thanks for chatting.
Thank you so much. Of course. Yeah.
Outside Ourselves is a 1517 podcast. To learn more about all of our shows and all of our podcasts, please go to 1517.org/podcasts. If you like today's episode and you haven't done so already, please give us a 5-star rating wherever you're listening. And if you're watching on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any of our future content. I'll be back here in 2 weeks with our next guest.